The city never slept, especially not here. This was Little Italy, 1985. Neon signs bled red and green onto wet asphalt. A caddy DeVille, long as a city block and black as a priest's cassock, slid through the narrow streets. Steam rose from the manholes, catching the light like ghosts. The air was thick with the smell of frying garlic, cheap perfume, and ambition. This was our world. It had its own rules, its own pulse. You could feel it in the pavement, a low hum that promised everything and nothing at all. It was a place where a smile could hide a knife and a handshake could seal your fate. Out of the shadows they came. Men in sharkskin suits, tailored to perfection. Their shoes shined so bright you could see your reflection, your fear, right in them. They moved with a purpose, a swagger that owned the sidewalk. They were kings in a concrete kingdom, their crowns invisible but heavy. Every nod, every glance was a command, a language spoken without words. The neighborhood knew them, the cops knew them, but nobody saw anything. Seeing things got you into trouble. It was a simple code, but it was the only one that mattered on these streets. You kept your head down and your mouth shut. These men weren't just gangsters, they were tradition. They were the sons and grandsons of men who came from the old country with nothing but fire in their bellies. They built this world brick by brick, deal by deal, body by body. They were a family, a brotherhood bound by blood and secrets. They protected their own. They provided. They took what they wanted. To outsiders, they were monsters. To their people, they were saints. The truth, like everything else in this city, was somewhere in the murky middle, lost in the shadows between the streetlights. The music of the night was a constant rhythm, a low, mournful saxophone weeping from a basement club. The distant wail of a police siren, always there, always closing in. The clinking of glasses and the low murmur of conversations behind closed doors. This was the soundtrack to our lives. A symphony of power plays and whispered threats. Every night was an opera, full of high drama and low dealings, and we were all players on this stage, whether we knew it or not. The curtain never came down. The show just went on night after night under the unforgiving city lights. The real business wasn't done on the street. It was done in the back, past the kitchen of a place like Vesuvio's. You walk through the front, all smiles and handshakes. The smell of oregano and simmering tomato sauce hits you. Families are eating pasta. Lovers are sharing a bottle of Chianti. It looks normal, safe, but you keep walking. Through the swinging doors of the kitchen, past the sweating chefs and the clatter of pans. You head for a small, unmarked door in the back. That's where the real world is. That's where the deals are made. Inside, the air is different. Stale, thick with cigar smoke that hangs in the air like a shroud. The only light comes from a single green-shaded lamp hanging low over a round table. Around it sit the bosses, the capos, the old men. Their faces are maps of hard lives, etched with suspicion and cunning. They sip espresso from tiny cups, the dark liquid matching the darkness in their eyes. Here, a man's worth is measured in his silence. You don't talk just to talk. Every word has weight. Every word is a potential weapon or a fatal mistake. They don't need to shout. A whisper in this room is louder than a gunshot on the street. They talk business, construction unions, the waterfront, garbage collection. The city is a pie, and everyone at this table wants the biggest slice. Money is the god they all pray to. They move stacks of cash around like chess pieces. A little for this guy, a kickback for that guy. It's a well-oiled machine, greased with fear and loyalty. It's a delicate balance, a dance. One wrong step and the whole thing comes crashing down, burying everyone underneath the rubble. This is where tradition lives and breathes. It's in the way they show respect, the way they talk about the old days. They follow rules passed down through generations. Omerta, the code of silence. But the 80s are different. The ground is shifting. New guys are coming up, young Turks with no respect for the old ways. They're hungry, they're reckless. They see the old men as dinosaurs. And in this room you can feel that tension. The unspoken conflict between the past and the future. A future that smells less of garlic and more of gunpowder. Sometimes words in a back room aren't enough. Tensions boil over. A guy gets clipped, a shipment goes missing, then you need a sit down. A formal meeting, neutral ground, a steakhouse in the meatpacking district maybe. The air is so cold you can see your breath. The two families arrive separately. They don't look at each other. They walk in, flanked by soldiers. Their faces are stone. This isn't a negotiation, it's a test of wills, a display of strength. Everyone knows that one wrong move, one disrespectful glance could turn the place into a slaughterhouse. The waiters are sweating more than the steaks. The bosses sit opposite each other. The table between them feels like a mile-wide canyon. The dawn of one family, old and weary, his power cemented in decades of blood. The other, a younger, hungrier rival, his eyes full of fire and ambition. The talk is quiet, polite even. But the threats are there, coiled beneath the surface of every word. We have a problem that needs to be resolved. Some of my people are unhappy. It's a ballet of veiled intimidation, each man trying to read the other, looking for a flicker of weakness, a hint of fear. Power isn't just about having the guns, it's about making the other guy think you're willing to use them. Meanwhile, across the street, they watch. They always watch. From an unmarked van with tinted windows, the FBI. They have long-lens cameras. They have listening devices. They write down license plates. They take pictures. They are patient. They are building a case, brick by brick, just like the families built their empires. The RICO Act of 1970 gave us the tools. We just needed to connect the dots. These guys thought they were untouchable. We were about to prove them wrong. The agents in the van see the handshakes. They see the envelopes of cash passed under the table. They are the ghosts at the feast, the silent audience to the whole damn show. The sit-down ends with a handshake. A deal is struck, or so it seems. But nobody trusts anybody. Loyalty is a currency that has lost its value. The handshake is cold. The smiles are fake. As they leave, they go back to their separate cars, their separate worlds. The tension is broken but not gone. It just retreats back into the shadows, waiting for the next opportunity, the next betrayal. The agents in the van log the time. They've got what they need for today. They know this truce is just a pause, a brief intermission before the next act of violence begins. In this life, tradition is the foundation. Loyalty is the wall that protects you, but betrayal is the crack that brings the whole house down. And the cracks were starting to show everywhere. A capo is found in the trunk of his own Lincoln Continental at JFK, a canary stuffed in his mouth. A message. He sang to the feds. A drive-by shooting on a quiet street in Queens shatters the afternoon calm, leaving a rising star dead on the pavement. Retaliation. An eye for an eye. The violence was getting louder, messier. The old rules of engagement were being forgotten in a rush for power and revenge. The city's mood was a dark, orchestral score. The mournful strings of a violin would play over a shot of a body being pulled from the East River, bloated and gray. Then, the sudden jarring blast of brass as another car bomb detonates in a rival's territory. The rhythm was unpredictable. A slow, tense build-up, then a sudden explosion of chaos. The jazz clubs still played their cool tunes, but now they seemed to be playing a funeral dirge. The city felt on edge, holding its breath. Everyone knew a war was coming. Not a war with the cops, a war with ourselves. The ultimate betrayal came not from a bullet, but from a witness stand. One of our own, a made man, turning state's evidence, pointing fingers in a courtroom, naming names, breaking the sacred vow of omerta. To the feds, he was a hero. To us, he was worse than a murderer. He had destroyed the very thing that held us together: trust. Sammy the Bull Gravano's testimony would bring down the family. He broke the code. After that, nothing was ever the same. This was the new weapon, more powerful than any gun. The fear that the man sitting next to you, your brother, could be the one to send you away forever. The 80s were the beginning of the end. The combination of internal warfare and the government's relentless pressure was a 1-2 punch we couldn't recover from. The empire, which seemed so strong, so eternal, was rotting from the inside out. The power, the money, the fear we commanded, it all started to crumble. The men in their sharp suits still walked the streets of Little Italy, but the swagger was gone. They were ghosts, haunting the ruins of their own kingdom. The tradition was broken. The loyalty was a lie. All that was left was the betrayal and the long, dark shadows of what used to be.